Greetings. I'd like to welcome everyone in our audience today. We are very grateful that you have chosen to share some of your busy day with us. We know your time is valuable, and we'll honor that today with what I'm confident will be an engaging discussion. Once again, our topic is overcoming the Salesforce challenges of scalability, governance, and security. Our sponsor today is Copado. Our host is American Banker, and my name is Mike Sisk. I'm a contributing editor at American Banker, and I will be your moderator today. And so allow me to set a little context for today's discussion. If you are leading a Salesforce team in banking or insurance today, you are likely living in a paradox. The business is demanding features at the speed of a fintech startup, but your risk officers are demanding the control of a fortress. So today we aren't just talking about DevOps, we're talking about a blueprint for scaling secure delivery. And to that end, we have brought together the strategic leaders from Accenture and the technical heavyweights of Copado, DigitSec, and Quality Clouds to show you how to solve the conflict between speed and regulation. And so with that, I'm very pleased to introduce our four speakers today. We have with us John Castillo, Head of Partnerships at Quality Clouds. We have Andy Goodenough, Managing Director, Global Salesforce Security Lead at Accenture. Waqas Nazir, Founder and CEO of DigitSec, and John Kane, Strategic Partnerships and Innovation Director at Copado. So really just thrilled to have all four gentlemen with us here today. Before we jump in, just a couple quick housekeeping notes. They were mentioned in that introductory video. We do have some time at the end for Q&A. You don't have to wait until the end to put your question in the queue. You can do that throughout the hour. As it occurs to you, definitely encourage you to get those questions in there. If we don't get to a question you've asked, we'll definitely follow up after the program. So please ask away. We very much want to hear from you. We also have, I believe, 2 polls today, and I always encourage 100% participation. We do share the results live with everyone. It's a great way for everyone to see where other folks stand on the issue that we've come together to discuss. So if you can weigh in those polls, that would be fantastic. And just let me kind of briefly go through our agenda today. We're going to be talking about the financial services paradox, a unified DevSecOps solution, the secure delivery lifecycle, key solution benefits, Accenture's strategic view, and then we will have that live Q&A at the end, as I mentioned. So that is our agenda today, what we'll be trying to get through here. And I think with that, I will get out of the way and turn things over to Andy. Andy, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mike. Great to be here, everybody. Really appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit about the conflict between speed and compliance in this space. We are at the precipice of a massive shift, I think, in how Salesforce security or how Salesforce programs are being delivered. And what we're seeing in the market right now is a massive pressure for business units demanding features faster, our end customers demanding features faster. Everything from AI, Agentforce, new features being launched at Dreamforce, being launched at World Tours. The business units are seeing all these new capabilities and they really want to take advantage of them. On the ground, we have this reality in the banking industry where financial regulations are really requiring strict change control. So this is at odds sometimes with the speed with which the business units want to move. And we end up in a situation where either we are having unmanaged changes make their way into production environments, or we're not meeting the business needs. And so this is really this conflict where this traditional governance model of regulated industries, banking specifically here, is killing velocity. So with that, we're going to talk a little bit about why moving so fast and breaking things doesn't really work in this industry. First is obviously security incidents. You probably have seen in the news, Salesforce is a very interesting target for threat actors these days. Misconfiguration is leading to breaches, which leads to fines from a regulatory perspective, as well as extortion. We're even seeing threat actors go after individual officers of organizations where they've been successful in breaching Salesforce systems. Beyond the security incidents, we also have operational risk, where you may have teams moving so fast that they just miss things. There are steps related to testing changes, having manual deployment steps potentially, even as simple things like checklists of doing sanity testing. A lot of these things are still being handled manually, depending on the maturity of an organization and what kind of capabilities might be available to those teams. All of that leads to risk, because you may end up with an outage, or you may end up with continuous rework. We also see audit fatigue. So in the banking industry, we're going to be doing audits very frequently. Sometimes they're internal audits, sometimes they're external, sometimes they're just security assessments that might be getting done. What this all leads to, without doing some sort of automation, is development teams that are under the pressure to deliver evidence of implementation of controls in a very manual way. And that costs a lot of time and effort, which eventually translates into slowing down delivery of features that might be revenue generating or cost reducing. The other aspect of this is cost of rework. So if you are handling all of these types of issues in an audit further down the development lifecycle from where the issue is potentially introduced, you end up with a more expensive remediation process. The closer you can move to handling any types of misconfigurations, issues, security vulnerabilities that might have been introduced, closer to the start of the development lifecycle, so in your development environments, the less costly it is to actually address. We're going to be talking a little bit about how we can address this, an approach to allowing speed, but also managing compliance and meeting the needs of the business at the pace that's necessary at this day and age. And for that, we're going to first hand it off to Mike for a quick poll.
Excellent. Thank you. And let me hop to this first poll right here, as promised. So everyone, I'm just going to read through the question here, read through the possible answers, and hopefully everyone has a chance to jump in on this first poll. It's kind of a nice level setting for our discussion today. So how confident are you in your current Salesforce environment passing a surprise audit today? Are you confident? Are you concerned? Or we rely heavily on manual review? So let me just hold it open for another couple moments and see if we can up our participation rate in this first poll. It's always nice to get a good cross section here. And just a reminder about those questions. As those questions occur to you throughout the hour, get those into the queue, please, and we'll make every effort to get to everyone's questions in the time we've got here today. A lot of good material to get through. Okay, I'm gonna hold open just a couple more moments and then I'll share results. Okay, very good. Let me go ahead and share results now. So there you go, pretty evenly divided here. So we rely heavily on manual review, 38% said that, and then confident and concerned divided 31% each. So thank you for those results. And I think at this point, I'm turning it over to John. Yes, John, you want to hop in? I think you're on mute.
Of course, wanted to get that out of the way. Thanks, Mike. Yep. So the solution to the speed versus compliance that we just mentioned is to implement governance without friction. This is the core of our approach. So we're going to orchestrate trust directly into your development pipeline. This means we shift left. What we do is we move critical security and quality checks to the very moment the code is being written. We automate governance. So we replace those slow manual checklists that we just saw in the survey, for example, with a digital gate that automatically opens or closes based on data. When this is achieved, compliance stops being a speed bump that slows down your business and starts being that essential guardrail. It really helps you drive faster and, more importantly, safer. To deliver this, Capado, Quality Clouds, and Digits that have joined forces. This is an integrated DevSecOps approach. It automates risk and ensures continuous compliance. It significantly improves your release velocity while maintaining full control across the entire application lifecycle. Crucially, each of these solutions is purpose-built for the unique complexity of the Salesforce platform. They integrate natively into your existing tools and workflows, and this ensures a seamless developer experience with minimal overhead or retraining for your teams. This combined power allows you to move simply beyond managing risk and instead engineer it out of your process. And this allows you to achieve true DevSecOps, or orchestrating trust at scale. Achieving this level of trust at scale, though, requires a unified platform, not just a collection of disconnected tools. So think of Capado as that central nervous system. We orchestrate the entire process. We move the metadata and manage the secure delivery pipeline from end to end. But a pipeline, no matter how efficient, needs intelligence and specialized expertise. And that's where our partners come in. DigitSec serves as the security expert, specializing in finding and flagging sophisticated security vulnerabilities and providing the necessary remediation guidance. They ensure you have comprehensive code security. Quality Clouds acts as the architect, focusing on continuous government. They ensure your code is clean, efficient, and compliant with best practices, catching technical debt and bad configuration patterns. Together, this partnership provides a single, unified workflow. This allows Accenture to implement a trusted enterprise DevOps strategy that is perfectly tailored to fit your specific enterprise risk framework. It is the integration of these three specialized components: governance, security, and trusted DevOps that enables us to orchestrate trust at the enterprise scale required by many financial institutions. Let's discuss Capado now, the intelligent DevOps platform. The Capado platform is built for the complexity of Salesforce, but it's also engineered for the speed of AI. The foundation of this architecture is Capado's org intelligence. This refers to the deep, real-time understanding of your Salesforce org's metadata, security posture, and compliance status. This intelligence is what enables true DevSecOps at an unprecedented scale. Simply put, Capado's org intelligence provides Salesforce clarity. It gives teams a complex, actionable understanding of their environments, not just a snapshot, but a live, intelligent layer. With org intelligence, discovery is 80% faster, troubleshooting 50% faster, code creation 40% quicker, and production defects are reduced by 25%. The platform is designed to learn from every vulnerability, compliance failure, and technical debt finding. This means it proactively guides your development teams, ensuring the code is written clean and secure. In short, this is not just a DevOps solution. It is the intelligent DevOps platform. It is powered by Capado AI to ensure continuous security and trust, and it is unified to handle the unique, complex reality of Salesforce development. This combination provides the speed the business demands and the control that regulators require, all on a single integrated platform. Next, John will address shifting governance left. John? And John, like you're on mute as well. It's contagious.
Sorry about that. Back to it. Thanks, John, for handing off here. The concept centered around shifting the governance to the left really centers around code quality and the quality and control that provides a level of efficiency and risk mitigation to the development process for all developers to make sure that the packages that are being pushed to production are much cleaner and safer. Quality Clouds provides this capability where developers should standardize on a set of our 1,000 plus best practices on how development is done in Salesforce. Along with our scanning capability for those potential issues that you may experience from a code or a configuration perspective, and exposing a lot of the technical debt, because it's really about making sure that that technical debt is visible. We provide governance across the quality control process for development into test as well as into your production environments. Quality Cloud's AI capabilities are also available to provide developers with tools to give examples and research on how to fix code and how to fix it quickly. Our solution provides both the visibility and the ability to use our rule sets and best practices to maintain governance across all changes for all developers. The tools that are most helpful that we provide are our Quality Center. This is our dashboard that shows all the issues live, where it is in the code, how much of the technical debt there is, as well as the compliance areas that are impacted. Our Quality Gates is where our rule sets and our best practices, which I already mentioned are about 1,000, live, and how we manage governance for that bad code and make sure that those standards are adhered to, and making sure that they're blocked. Live Check AI is another tool that we have that does live checking against the code while developers are developing to make sure that they're adhering to those coding standards. And it leverages AI as well. Those are just 3 of the areas that we cover. We cover many more, but the better development experience that we provide, leveraging these collaborative tools and keeping an adherence to the maintaining of governance across all delivery is important. We also have a rule builder functionality that allows banks to be able to build their own rule sets within the tool set, to be able to add their own best practices and be able to manage them themselves. This all results in avoiding costly rebuilds and testing efforts that we all experience, and we provide that every day. I'll hand over to Walkus right now, where he'll go through the principles of this with the security later. Walkus?
Thanks, John. I always like to begin with something that is very well known in the Salesforce world, which is security is a shared responsibility among Salesforce and its customers. So what that really means is security was never optional. For some reason, people still don't realize that security is a must in a Salesforce environment. But now, given what Andy alluded to, with the increased attention by attackers on Salesforce, people are coming to this realization, and customers are making proactive steps to address security needs for Salesforce. The security layer is one of the most important layers in your DevOps platform. There are a number of risks and exploits that need to be addressed. We know with increasing demands on changes and fast changes and customizations in Salesforce, while these provide powerful tools and capabilities to Salesforce teams, they also introduce risk. And given the use of AI and Agentforce, large amounts of data is processed through these platforms now, and they can contain sensitive customer data, PII, financial records. So they become very attractive for an attacker. So if they are not properly governed, you can have unintentional data exposure. You could have exploits which could affect the operations or the availability of your environment. And similarly, you can have a risky portfolio in which there are many unknowns for your given Salesforce environment. Now, we often say that security is a team sport. It is basically a collective commitment. So you need engineers, operators, leaders, and partners working together. And this is really what this solution really brings, us coming together to bring a solution to a complex problem. Owning your risk really means understanding where vulnerabilities exist, how to prioritize them, what matters most, and what steps to take to mitigate that risk or threats. When you have all the stakeholders accountable, then you build resilience, trust, and long-term business continuity. The hardest risk to address is the one that you cannot see. So the first step that we say is understanding your blind spots. So DigitSec's approach is to bring vulnerabilities to light early in the development lifecycle so that remediations can be applied faster and simpler and are significantly less expensive. So with our approach, you're continuously shifting left and maintaining continuous oversight and eliminating blind spots and reducing the likelihood of a costly breach. So in order to do this, we also enable customers to demonstrate compliance at large scale. DigitSec's platform supports compliance reporting across major regulatory and industry standards, such as SOC 2, PCI DSS, GDPR, to name a few. We also have comprehensive testing and analysis capabilities, so we rely on static analysis, dynamic testing, composition analysis, as well as cloud configuration reviews. Our rule sets are built using real-world security threats, so customers are able to get real value out of our findings, and we clearly prioritize and give them remediation guidance. So we've laid out basically 3 key components that must exist in a secure development lifecycle. From planning and coding to development and post-health release, this joint solution comprising of these 3 components gives the teams the confidence that they need to move fast without compromising trust or quality. So here's how this works. First layer is basically scan. So this is the analysis part where DigitSec directs the security strategy by scanning code for security vulnerabilities in Salesforce code config, as well as metadata. And Quality Clouds detects risk, technical debt, and waste before it reaches production. Quality Clouds has about 1,000 plus industry best practices, and they analyze code config and metadata, while Capado orchestrates the scanning in the pipeline. So vulnerabilities, bad code, misconfigurations, and AI logic issues are caught early. The second step is how to enforce what you scan for. The results to the scanning are integrated directly into Capado user stories and pipelines. Capado enforces operational security and release governance rules, while Quality Cloud's quality gates block anything that fails its best practices or compliance checks. DigitSec enables guardrails via security gates and its remediation guidance. This combined enforcement ensures only secure, compliant, high-quality changes move forward. The last element is audit. Basically, the ability to audit comes through the Capado Compliance Hub, where all the scan results are captured. All the approvals, write-offs for full traceability and regulatory compliance are recorded. Complementing this, Quality Cloud's operational scan provides real-time monitoring of production environments, spotting unused features, detecting errors, optimizing resources, and maintaining performance aligned with key business KPIs. DigitSec's audit-ready security and compliance reporting also flows into Capado and brings auditable config and access control checks. Together, they provide the historical auditability and live operational insight. These 3 components we feel are a must-have in a secure, repeatable process for Salesforce. Now I'd like to move back to Mike so that we can have another poll.
Excellent. Thank you, Aukus. Yes, we've got our next poll here, and same drill as before. I'm going to just read through the question and a couple of answers here, and hopefully everyone will have a chance to, I'll give everyone enough time to weigh in. So this question is, what slows your team the most on Salesforce? Is it security or compliance reviews, quality or testing bottlenecks, approval and governance steps, or you're not sure, we move pretty fast? So I'm going to just hold this open for another couple moments here. Let everyone weigh in, and then we will be off to the races with the back end of our program here today. So once again, what slows your team the most on Salesforce? Is it security or compliance reviews, quality or testing bottlenecks, approval or governance steps, or you're not sure that you already moved pretty fast? So, okay, we'll just hold it up another moment or two. It's good to get as many responses as possible. And okay, good. All right, let's go ahead and share these results. And all right, so 40% said approval, governance steps, 30% are not sure, 20% say quality or testing bottlenecks, and 10%, just 10% say security or compliance reviews. So thank you for that. And I think at this point, I'm turning things back over to Andy.
Thanks again, Mike. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how we actually implement this. How do we bring this to the enterprise? And we've talked a lot about tooling and automation and standardizing, but I want to take a quick step back and just talk a little bit about one of the most important aspects of a program like this to enable speed is to have a shared understanding of the problem, the language, and what the outcomes need to be. So this is a people problem. There are tools, like we've just talked about, that help support this process. But at the end of the day, we need to have all of the various stakeholders, compliance, security, the Salesforce application teams, the business unit users, having input into what this process is going to look like so that there's shared ownership. We end up with, I'll go back to what Waqas said about shared responsibility. Yes, there's shared responsibility between Salesforce and the customer, if you will, but there's also shared responsibility within all of the various components of an organization. So security is everybody's responsibility, as well as compliance. So we need to take that into account as we're building out these types of programs. So what do we need to do as a group to co-create this process? We need to understand what does good look like. That could take the form of mapping internal compliance frameworks, external compliance frameworks to what is capable of being done in Salesforce. Using the tools we just talked about makes it a lot easier to automate the understanding of adherence to those controls. But before we can get to automation, we need to understand what does good actually look like. There are going to be out-of-the-box capabilities for some of these discussions, but we also need to understand what the individual organizational flavor of those compliance checks needs to be. Understand that this type of program really needs to be treated as an enterprise program. If you just put in tooling, you're going to end up with very quickly sending lots of alerts and having lots of issues to potentially look through, potentially even stopping your development pipeline if you haven't already worked through the processes for change management with your development team, with your compliance team. What are the expected outcomes? What's the exception management process? There are always going to be exceptions to these types of checks that might be getting put in place. And so you need to have that worked out ahead of time so that we don't slow things down when you inevitably start seeing more issues than you likely have in the past, given the types of visibility that you would get with an approach like we're talking about. So to wrap things up, I think the real success, what leads to real success in a program like this is the co-ownership of the outcomes, really understanding whose risk is it to accept. What are the outputs that are necessary to accomplish all of the various stakeholders' interests in this process? It's not just about handing a report over to the compliance team and being done with it. We want to truly address security. We want to truly address our compliance needs and the business need to move fast. So having everybody at the table and co-creating this is really what's going to lead to the most success in a large enterprise like this. With that, I will turn it back over to John to talk about some of the benefits of this approach.
Thanks, Andy. Now we get to the key solution benefits, right? So what does this all mean for all of us, right? We've got three great tools that combine to make a solution for what we're talking about. So those key benefits really are what you see here, right? The automation of quality, the security checks, that's really important. The combination of quality clouds as well as DigitSec to be able to expose those are really important for visibility as well as being able to maintain and manage those going forward. This helps with a lot of the shifting of the compliance reviews to the left, as we've been talking about, and making sure that testing is much more efficient. The process being cleaner and more efficient going forward, especially for those things going into production. The prevention of defects and looking at the technical debt and all of that, as well as the potential security breaches and all the activity associated with it, accelerates the time to value and ensures that we have continuous governance. Next slide. So what does this all mean? This is in theory. This is what we see at all the major banks today. When you catch a bug in the scan phase, it usually takes about 10 minutes to fix. If you can catch it in UAT, it usually takes 2 days. If you catch it in prod, then it's a crisis. By automating this, our customers generally experience results that are 2 times faster in the release process through automated testing and deployment. 80% reduction in rework, which is important. By catching defects in the scan phase, we're able to do that through some of the tooling that we've talked about here. And 100% audit visibility, which is also very important. That frees your developers up to actually build features and not deal with support issues. And because you're not fighting fires every day, the release velocity doubles. You are safer and you are faster. Looks like we might have some questions, Mike, so I'll hand off to you.
Yes, John, indeed we do. We've got some good questions in here already. And just a reminder, if you got something in your mind, now is definitely the time to get that question into the queue, but we do have some good ones here. So let's jump right in. Actually, before I do that, I want to just alert everyone in the audience to this QR code here. I'm just going to leave that up during the Q&A, and you can use that to scan and get a little more information. So I'll just leave that there for your resource. And okay, so first question, let me direct this to Andy. What internal risk control practices or compliance guardrails do you use in this process?
Sure. Great question. And I'm going to go back to a little bit what I was talking about before and just say the number one thing to do up front is to understand who owns the risk. Too often I run into development teams that are taking on risk that is not theirs to accept. Ultimately, it's the business team that owns the risk usually. And all of the various capabilities that we're talking about helps us understand what those risks are. And it needs to be a governed process to accept those risks or how you're going to mitigate them. It could be through remediation of code. It could be configuration changes. It could be that we have compensating controls and we don't need to deal with it directly in the system. There's a lot of different ways to handle it. So this is the number one thing that I would say needs to happen is truly understanding who is responsible for the risk of whatever is being deployed.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. Next question here. So what does the governance, how does a quality gate flow into Copado to block and force?
It might be for me. We through our scanning capability, we're able to trap and capture those issues through our quality gates. As we talked about, we have 1,000 plus best practices, and really what those are rule sets that really define, the things that you're not supposed to do from a coding perspective. And we're able to flow those through integration with Capado, and that's through APIs that we're able to give that information over, and Capado is able to look at those and use that as part of their testing process.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, John. And here's another question. Not sure who to direct it to, so please just jump in. So, what type of? Let me just make sure I'm reading this correctly. Actually, let me ask you this one. What are the most common gaps in governance that banks are finding Salesforce lacks, requiring Capado, DigiSec, and quality clouds? Which Salesforce components expose the greatest risks? Are there any cautionary tales that you can share?
I can take that, and maybe Waqas can jump in after.
Thank you.
So the most common gaps that we see tend to shift based on where threat actors are focused. A couple of years ago, it was Experience Cloud with guest user access, misconfigurations that were rampant at that time. These days, it's third-party apps, connected apps, API control, RBAC, so understanding who has permissions to what APIs might be available. And then the other one that's really relevant to any of the industry cloud solutions is Omni Studio. Omni Studio has had several very large security issues in the recent past that Salesforce has started enforcing management of. These are breaking changes. So if you're already dealing with Omni Studio out there, you're probably seeing that Salesforce is pushing pretty massive changes to lock things down. And it requires a strong governance process to make sure that those changes can make its way into production without breaking everything. So like I said, it changes over time, but I would say right now it's third-party connected app access and Omni Studio. Waqas, did you have anything you want to add to that?
No, I think you hit it on the head. As threats change, the components in Salesforce which are attacked change as well. But it's also important to understand like what features you've enabled, like Andy pointed out, Omni Studio being one, Experience Cloud being another one, connected apps being another one. Each one has its unique threat picture, if you will, or threat vectors, if you will. And if you enable these features without a clear understanding of what you're really doing or what's the risk, then you get into environments where attackers can come in and exploit a fairly trivial thing which could have been addressed had you understood the risk associated with enabling a feature. So it's important to understand, like, toggling something on and off has great repercussions when it comes to Salesforce.
Thank you very much, Waqas. All right, next question here. And I want to make sure to say, what types of vulnerabilities or issues are typically uncovered in Salesforce FinServ orgs, and how does remediation guidance get surfaced to users? Anyone want to jump in on that one?
I can take a stab at it, and then anyone else can jump in, or Andy can jump in as well. So typically, again, it really depends on what's that environment exposing in terms of features and changes. We look at primarily the source code or the changes associated with code. So most of the things that we still find in Salesforce orgs across the board, including FinServ orgs, is this concept of permissioning within Salesforce and which context code runs in. So which we find like a well-defined role hierarchy and well-defined roles and permissions, but then we will have code that actually runs with system context and ignores all your sharing rules and ignores all your permissions. That kind of breaks your entire authorization model. So that's something that we see quite commonly is this class of bugs, which we call CRUD violations. We also consistently see a lot of issues with exposing methods and features which are meant to be internal and being exposed externally. That creates a large amount of risk. You only need somebody poking around to find out those methods and then gain data out of it. So to keep it brief, these are some of the the common things that we see, but there's a slew of issues that typically come up with a security scan.
I think I want to add one more thing to that, if I could, Vikas.
Sure.
Very often, we see security testing being done on Salesforce programs where they're not using Salesforce specific tools. So this often comes in DAST or even SAST tools that are not necessarily specifically tuned to understand the nuances of Salesforce, like the solution that we've talked about here. And when you use those types of solutions, you actually end up with with chasing a lot of false positives. So when we talk about the solutions that, or the types of vulnerabilities that pop up, Vikas was spot on. We see a lot of client-side injection type attacks. We see a lot of misconfiguration from a role-based access control perspective. In terms of bubbling up the remediation guidance, the tools that we've been talking about so far do a really good job of giving Salesforce-specific guidance about how to handle it versus generic guidance that for a regular full-stack web app might be relevant, but won't necessarily work for Salesforce. So that's why we take the approach that we do and use these tools that are really tuned to understand the nuance of Salesforce development.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, Andy. All right. I think we've got time for one more question. So last one here. When does the governance happen? At which step? In the review process or the committee review process or during pre-deployment?
For us, I'll jump in on that. For us, we generally see it when we talk about shift left, we see it all the way in the development process, where governance is, and we talked a little bit and rightly pointed out as well as us that a lot of the governance is ungoverned in many ways. A lot of the integrations, a lot of the configuration or the misconfiguration that happens. So we see a lot of that being uncontrolled, and the standards around it are very light, if you will. So when we see that, a lot of our tooling is meant to correct that. That's where we're starting to see a lot of those ungoverned accesses and ungoverned things happening within the development process be locked down. So the standards is really where it helps to bring that governance into play, and we see that happen more on the in the development process.
The short answer to add on to that is everywhere. So you do want to shift left as much as possible to understand where you might have drift coming in or vulnerabilities being introduced. But the reality is, if you have admins in production, they have the ability to make changes. You should be monitoring production as well, not necessarily from a code perspective, but config changes in production all the time. I've actually had customers where they had an admin unintentionally doing a training exercise in their production environment and ended up exposing data. You need capabilities that will help you understand not just at one point in time in the dev lifecycle, but all the way through to production monitoring.
Great. Great. Thanks, Andy. And I think that that's all the time we've got for questions today. And I want to call out to the audience as we wrap up here that I know that there were a couple folks mentioned that they're having trouble accessing some of the resources in the console today. But fear not, we will be sending out a follow-up email that to everyone with us today. It'll have a link to those resources and also to a recording of this event. So that's all going to be coming your way. And I want to thank you for being here and participating in this polls today. Very much appreciate that. Also want to thank all of our speakers, Andy Wakas, John, and John really dug into this topic today and appreciate all your expertise. And with that, I think I will officially wrap it up. Wish everyone a wonderful rest of the day. And I hope you'll join us again here very soon. Thanks so much.